I, a male teen, currently work part-time and have my own income. I'm also the oldest in my family. I have 4 younger siblings, 2 big others who are on the spectrum and 2 sisters who are biologically my cousins and were adopted by my parents as babies. Both have Down syndrome. All 4 of my younger siblings have significant challenges and health issues. Over the years, it's drained my parents' resources and left very little for anything fun. Only when I started working 2 years ago, could I afford to treat myself occasionally? Sometimes it's my favorite gummies. Today, I save up to buy something. I bought myself a laptop earlier this year with my money because I needed something, especially with school and everything. And using the family computer doesn't work as much now as Dad works later in the day than he used to. For the last few months, I've paid for certain groceries for myself. Since there are so many different meals made in our house, and I usually end up with stuff I didn't enjoy, I decided to occasionally buy stuff so I could make myself something I'd like. And it was one less person for my mom to prepare food for. My brothers both have safe foods and my sisters are also bad eaters who have limitations due to allergies and not enjoying the taste of many things. I know my parents have been struggling to afford all the safe foods, allergen foods, and stuff for themselves. A while ago, my dad asked if I could buy some family groceries for everyone and I asked him if I could get more of what I like for everyone. And he said, no. He and my mom don't like the foods I eat. My siblings couldn't and wouldn't eat them. He said, just get the usual stuff, and I can live off of stuff I don't love. I told him I didn't want to do that. That I was trying to enjoy food more, and it was one less person for them to buy for. We compromised, and I would buy myself groceries all the time instead of sometimes. Then a couple of weeks ago, some food ran out, and my dad had to use his credit card to buy a few extra groceries. I was the only person who didn't run out that week. My parents were angry. They asked why I took care of myself so much, but wouldn't help out with my family. Mom said it's exhausting having to feed so many people with different needs and I could at least buy food for my siblings if I can't give a crap about her and Dad. They said I was selfish, and I should be thinking of my family over just me. My parents said I would probably let everyone starve before I help out, and then they accused me of resenting them for adopting my sisters and adding more additional needs kids to our family. But they said that's what family does and I should be ashamed. They also said I should never have bought the laptop and could have helped out more financially without it. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your parents are legally obligated to provide for you till you're 18, and they're not doing that. It sounds as though they were doing okay until you started earning money. You're already helping them out by paying for your own food. You also have provided your own laptop that your parents didn't have to pay for. When someone is drowning, the solution is not to drown with them. It's to find lifelines. There are programs that can help them. Your parents need to seek those out. Opie, you are not a parent. Don't let them turn you into one. The fact that you have to work outside your home just to feed yourself indicates that they're failing to meet your needs. It seems your needs are coming dead last. If they want more money, they can get a job that pays better or work more hours. If you start buying groceries, you will never get out of. Even if you move out, they will still ask for your help. Oh, sweetie, start saving money so you can move out ASAP. Your parents bit off more than they can chew and need to reach out to the countless resources that are available to them. The best place to start is the caseworker. If I were you, I contact DCF myself and explain exactly what you said. Your family is struggling to make ends meet after adopting and pressuring you to provide. They won't be in trouble. They'll be provided resources and help for all of you. Also, you may want to hide your laptop. They sound very resentful about it, and I don't know what type of people they are. It's understandable that your family is struggling, but it isn't your struggle. Good luck. I, 37 male, have been with my wife since our senior year in high school. We have 6 kids, pre-tweens, to teens. I work Monday to Friday, 14 hours, 3 days a week, 12 hours, 2 days. My wife is a stay-at-home mom. Before I get the hate comments I've seen in the past, I'm incredibly grateful. On my days off, I take the kids out, my wife has the data herself or she goes out and I handle chores. I always remind my wife I'm grateful and take her out on date nights a few times a month on my days off. My sister comes by and helps out some days throughout the week. We had a financial crisis earlier this year, which resulted in me having these extra hours. It's essential. 4 of our kids do extracurriculars that we have to pay for and other necessities. My wife has recently been asking me to cut back hours, which has been causing arguments because it's simply impossible at the moment. We have young twins, and earlier this week, they got the flu, which spread throughout our home and had the kids home from school for most of the week. I couldn't call off, but it left my wife extremely stressed out. One of our children has autism, and when they're sick, it's a very big crisis in the house with tantrums. I felt horrible, but I couldn't call out. Today, my wife shouted at me for over an hour for refusing to take less hours because she's so stressed. She said I get to escape at work and she has a household to run. I tried to explain that I'd love more than anything to be home more, but I couldn't. But she continued yelling, saying I was the problem. Am I the idiot? Everyone's the idiot here. Honestly, it sounds like you're both living in a nightmare. Dude, if your wife is in the hospital with a breakdown, that will require you to take off work and be a financial burden. Something needs to give. You may have to look at dropping the extracurricular activities you pay for and looking at free activities. Going over your budget to see if there's any way for you to cut hours. Otherwise, maybe paying a sitter a few hours a week to give your wife a break or a mother's helper so it's less expensive. Opie's delusional. Extracurriculars are not necessities. A burnt-out caregiver, especially to a kid with special needs, is a dangerous thing. She is asking you for help. You need to hear her op. Having 6 kids is so much work and she's doing it alone, essentially. She shouted at you for an hour. That lady doesn't have an hour to spare. That's how serious it is. You are the idiot. The dude works 64 hours a week and still coming home to do chores and relieve mom. The problem is not that he needs to help out at home more. The problem is mom has champagne tastes on a beer budget. Let's not pretend she's single-handedly raising the family. They'd all be on the street without him. She said I get to escape at work, and she has a household to run. Yeah, that's the gig. That's literally the division of labor for stay-at-home parent families. 64 hours a week doesn't sound like an escape to me. That sounds like a nightmare. The standard week is 35 hours excluding lunch. He's effectively doing 2 jobs. I mean, yeah. Can you do 3 jobs and look after the kids too? Get the snip, dude. Do not make things harder by adding to your brood. Hi. Female 32. I'm currently 8 months pregnant with our first, and I'm trying to do everything I can to ensure the house is ready. This started with little spring cleaning jobs, but has developed into a full-blown deep clean of everything. One of the things I've decluttered recently was my how's 33 closet. I donated everything we don't wear and folded and put away everything we won't need during winter. Some of this clothing has gone into a suitcase currently sitting on our bedroom floor because it's too heavy for me to lift and put away. I've asked my husband to please help me more than once, but he's either too tired after finishing work or says that it slips his mind. All in all, the suitcase is currently looking like a permanent installation in our bedroom. He has at least shifted it out of the main walkway in the interim. Last night, I woke up to go to the bathroom and tripped over the suitcase as I fumbled in the dark. I do know where it is after it's been there for so, but I was half asleep and trying to avoid our sleeping pub. While the fall wasn't bad, I did wake my husband. My husband was initially quite worried, especially since our midwife told us any fall needed a trip to the hospital, but he became quite upset once he realized it was because of the suitcase. He said there was no way I could have tripped over the suitcase unintentionally as he had moved it out of the walkway, and I'd done it to prove a point. He said that he couldn't believe I would behave so passively aggressively and put our baby's life at risk rather than just asking him again, and the forgetting to move the case is not a crime. The more I tried to explain that I was trying to avoid waking him and tripping over the dog, the more he said they were just convenient excuses to make him look lazy and unhelpful around the house. He said I was punishing him for not getting to the suitcase sooner and that if anything, I should have had a plan to deal with it from the beginning as I'd wanted to sort out the closet in the first place. My husband was fired up again after I mentioned to the midwife this morning that I tripped over a suitcase, and he said I could have just told her that I'd fallen over the dog or my shoelaces. He said that he'd made his feelings clear during the night when we had our discussion, and I was now rubbing salt in the wounds. I spoke to my mom, 61, about it, after we back from the midwife because I wanted to vent, and she surprisingly took his side and said I was letting my emotions get the best of me. My mom said I should have been more graceful in bringing it up in front of the midwife, although I will say that I never said anything about asking him to move it. She said that the situation has probably made my husband feel quite bad about himself, which is why it's become such a big drama. Edit. The suitcase has been on the floor for 3 to 4 weeks. Your husband knows he screwed up. Maybe not consciously, but he's being damn defensive, which tells me that somewhere in his unconscious, he knows it was his fault. You are not the idiot. It sounds like he was being lazy about it, and now he's feeling guilty so he's lashing out at you to compensate 4 weeks to lift the suitcase and put it away. If it was me on third day, it would break loose. It's a 2-minute inconvenience that he's procrastinated for 4 weeks. I think you've been very patient, and your husband is not at all in the right. He'd rather you don't mention a fault in the midwife, something that she explicitly told you that's relevant and needs attention just because you tripped over the suitcase. Which is, at this point, basically a monument to his laziness. This is just crazy. You should tell him to put the suitcase away right now. I bet the suitcase is still sitting there. I know a man with one leg. He says he sometimes wakes up at night to go to the bathroom, forgets he has only one leg and tumbles to the floor. So if he can forget that, how can one remember a suitcase? Opie, your husband needs to grow up. I own a preschool daycare. A little boy David toddler was supposed to start with us on Monday. On Friday, his parents asked if they could stop by him so he could get to know his classmates before his first day. It was during our extended care hours, so by then, we only had 4 kids and 1 teacher. Natalie, 19. I texted Natalie and told her that David and his parents would be joining them and that I would be there ASAP to talk to the parents so she could focus on the kids. When I arrived, David's mom and the kids were outside while Natalie was inside held against a wall and being screamed at by David's dad. Natalie always plays a show or movie on Fridays during the extended care. David's parents demanded that she turned it off because David isn't allowed any screen time. Natalie refused because the rest of the kids were enjoying the movie. They turned off the TV. Natalie tried to kick them out, and David's mom took everyone out to the playground, so his dad screamed at Natalie. When I saw this, I ripped up all of David's paperwork and told him to get his family and get off my property. We ended up shutting down early and calling the police. Luckily, Natalie's okay, just a couple of bruises and will likely be back in a few weeks. We have also made sure to have someone at the front desk during extended care hours so parents will not be allowed into the classroom anymore. We previously had parents walk into the extended care room to pick up or sign out their kids since there were so few kids. David's parents have been blasting us on parenting groups, community groups, and our reviews saying they were kicked out for observing the class and asking what their children would be learning. They've been telling this to other parents too, claiming that David was a student at one of our other locations. My friends and family said I should have found a better way to kick them out and that I've invited trouble by doing this. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Sue for slander and have the teacher press charges. Not to mention that the mom took the kids to the playground. She separated the caregiver from the children, aiding in dad's attack. She should face charges too. These people are total idiots. Exactly. Call the parents of those kids and get them to press charges as well. As a former daycare worker, it is essential to protect your workers. And while nothing like that ever happened when I worked in daycare, I would never want to work in an environment where my boss allowed such terrible and violent behavior from parents. Excuse me, Natalie is bruised. Why isn't anyone reporting the assault? Ripping up the application is the very least you could do. Unless your center is completely substandard, Dad should be waiting for a bail hearing right now. You should have cameras. If just not letting their kids attend is all you did, you failed your employee. The dad decided to assault someone over kids watching some TV, lay a charge of assault, set the record straight, and inform other schools of this caveman behavior. I, 34 male, and my wife, Polly, 32, like a lot of couples, debrief after our workdays. Holly works in a high-touch, high-interaction job, so we usually say our hellos May dinner and then eat separately so she can wind down a bit. Then afterward, we sit in the living room and chat. Holly has mild neurodivergence. Untreated ADHD, which means she tells, let's call it branching stories. She will get bogged down in side stories, background stories, and details that had nothing to the core story about her workday. That's usually fine, but I've noticed it getting worse. To the point that by the time she's done, it's time to watch a show and go to bed. I mean, I'm spending upwards of an hour just listening and adding, and oh, wow. Because she says she gets even more distracted when I ask questions. I brought this up with Polly, and she said that I'm asking her to mask her disorder. And that's just how her brain works. I get that feeling, but I'm starting to feel like I'm a side character here because she takes up all the airtime we set aside to debrief. Here's why I might be an idiot. I said, well, we all change our communication styles based on context, right? And she said that's different and that masking is not code searching. I just want some time to talk about my day too, but I don't want her to feel bad. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. There's no reason why you guys can't take telling the day's stories. Also, you say she's untreated. Well, she needs to get treatment. It sounds a lot like your wife really enjoys when other people accommodate her divergent behaviors, but really hates having to manage them to adapt the more typical behavior of others. She has to give you some path forward. That's not essentially you just need to deal with my crap. My mom does this constantly. Is this a neurodiverse symptom? I don't think wanting to share your life with her as it's acting her to mask. This may not work with your wife, but I tell my mother I'm losing the thread of her story. So can she get back to the main path? Another thing I do is timebox her. I let her know I have 50 minutes to talk when I call her. Yes. She does 99.98% of the talking, and that's fine. But at the 25-minute mark, I interrupt her until I only have 5 minutes left. OMG, this is one of my biggest pet peeves. Get to the point, people. You're not asking her to mask anything. You're asking her to work on her disorder to make things easier. You're not trying to get her to pretend she doesn't have to order, not asking her to lie about it, and not asking her to hide it. You're asking her to try different things to curb it. Like my family members, counting to 3, when they're about to lose their temper, or asking a person with memory issues do. Society is okay,